Hello, everyone. I'm Renetta. And last semester, Edora Phillips Ortiz was here and introduced us to her money management system. Today, she is here to present us with Smart Money Management Part 2 and provide additional interactive worksheets and financial planning tips for college students that she designed for you for your use in implementing your own smart money system. Before we begin, let me tell you about our speaker. Edora Phillips Ortiz, owner of Zip Biz, a business consulting and accounting firm. She holds a master's in accounting from St. Mary's College of California and a bachelor's degree in business administration from the National Hispanic University. Edora has over 20 years hands-on experience working in accounting, auditing, tax, and as a business consultant. Her experience in
And so that's the role of the president is to
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Are we back on?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, her experience includes a broad range of industries, including news and media, advertising, realty, restaurants, service-based business, and nonprofits. After her work as a government tax auditor, Edora went into private practice and established her accounting firm. Edora is a CPA candidate, a licensed tax preparer, and a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor for Intuit. In addition to her managing her day-to-day consulting and accounting business, Edora is so much sought out as the expert on the COVID federal small business stimulus aid program that she is invited weekly to provide Zoom workshops for the Sacramento Small Business Chamber of Commerce for those business entrepreneurs who are applying for those grants and loans. I am so glad, and in a few minutes, you will also be glad Umoja was able to bring her back for Smart Money Management Part 2. Everyone, please welcome Edora Phillips Ortiz. Edora?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're able to attend and meet with us today, especially to our students. I know that your days are really busy and I hope you're not skipping class, but I am prepared to really go over part 2 of what we went over in the early fall, which was the smart money management. And then we're going to go over a couple things. I have a couple bonuses for you, and I want to do more hands-on to show you how to use some of the tools, along with some of the theories of why you should be interested in managing your money and why it's important. I want to actually go over some of the tools, some of the more technical, to make sure that you're able to use the tools. So even if we could just in the chat really quickly, or with a show of hands, how many people, I just want to get an idea of the people that are here, how many people went to the first, saw the first presentation? You could just put me in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or, because I don't want to bore you and go over things over and over again if you guys already saw it. And just so everyone knows, I was a student for a long time. So I completely understand, and I am going to try to make this interesting as possible. Okay, I have a couple me's here. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over some of the main theory, and then we're gonna delve into the app. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, or you can write them down. We'll be doing a small Q&A afterwards. And if there are any questions as far as the items I'm going to present in this presentation, write them down, and I will try to go over them afterwards, as well as if you need to go over anything when I'm showing you how to work in either the spreadsheet or in the budgeting app. Okay. One second, everyone. I don't know why it's doing this. Give me a moment. Life can't always be perfect, right? So it's not showing the way I want it to show. I'm going to show it this way. Okay, so I want to introduce you to the Smart Money Management Workshop. And the S in SMART stands for savings. The M stands for money management. The A stands for different types of aid that you can receive. The R stands for different resources. And the T stands for transactions. And I have a little bonus T for you guys, which is going to be some tax tips since we're still in the middle of tax season. So we're going to get started. So S, savings. The first thing I want to go over is there are no excuses regarding savings. Everyone can save. I've spoken to so many people and people are always like, I don't have the money to save. And I always say, I've never told you how much to save. I just say save. So even if it's just in a little piggy bank and you're saving, I don't know, the spare change that you find in your pockets when you're doing laundry or the quarter under your seat of your car, try to save something. Okay. When you're going to save, I do encourage people to eventually go and open a savings account. I know for myself, my kids, that's how we started our savings accounts, was took our piggy banks into the bank one day and cashed all of our change in and opened a bank account. So For students, there are free checking and savings accounts at most banks. And those don't have fees, and they don't have the fees, especially if you are below a certain balance. So a lot of banks will say, like, if you're under $500 or if you're under $1,000, there's a monthly fee. For students or young people, a lot of banks waive those fees. So I would encourage everyone to try to start a bank account. You always want to check the requirements for opening a bank account before going into the bank, and you want to save automatically. So set up automatic transfers to a savings account. When you're opening your accounts, you want to open both a checking and a savings account. And the reason I say this is because, first of all, checking accounts are made for transactions to go in and out. So if you are planning on having transactions coming in and transactions coming out, even if, especially going out, even if it's things such as writing a small check or being able to use your debit card places, lots of times savings accounts will ding you if you have like more than 5 or 10 outgoing transactions in a month, because the main goal of a savings account is to save money, to keep the money into the bank account. So you want to have both a checking and a savings account. And then with what I encourage people to do is open them at the same bank and set up automatic transfers to your savings account from your checking account. That's how I began saving when I first really tried to save. I was encouraged to save back when I was in junior college, and I was in an accounting class and a professor was saying, I don't know why people don't save money more. He's like, you can, I was saying thing, you can save, you don't have to save a lot of money, just start saving money and it adds up. So I tried it and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna save $5. And then my 5 went up to 20. And then I started, taking out like $25 every paycheck to my savings. And it works, because after a while, that $5, $25, whatever, it adds up, and you might look around and have a lot of money in your savings when you really didn't expect it, and you don't really miss it. I set up automatic transfers from my checking to my savings now because I work for myself. I don't have a paycheck that comes out per se. So I set up that every other Friday, just like I did when I was working, a certain amount goes from my checking to my savings. I don't see it and I don't miss it. Another thing I would say is don't carry around your ATM card for your savings account, because usually when you open a savings account, they'll give you an ATM. When you have that card, you're tempted to use it. So I would say best bet is don't carry it at all. Next is start small. So like I said, it doesn't matter how much you start with, just start saving. Save a small amount on a regular basis, even if it's, I don't know, $1 a week, right? It's better than nothing, and it'll get you into that habit of saving. And once you feel comfortable with that dollar, then save more. So like I said, grow the amount that you save as it becomes easy, right? So once $1 is good, go to 5. Once 5 is good, go to 10. And then you should have a goal when you're saving. So sometimes you save just to have a personal nest egg, right? An emergency fund. And then sometimes you save for different life events. As far as goals for living expenses, I myself always had the idea of, what if I lost my job, right? I would have to be able to take care of myself, and I would have to be able to take care of my family. So my first goal was, I want to save as much money as I spend in 1 month. So I looked at my bank statement and I started saying, okay, I spend about, $1,000 a month on expenses. So I'm going to try to save $1,000. Once I hit that $1,000 mark, okay, I did that. Now let me see if I can get 3 months worth of savings. So I changed from 1,000 and I moved up. Your goal really should be, most experts say that your goal should be around 6 months of living expenses. So you can save for that. Plus, on top of that, you can save for life events. And as it was mentioned before, I've done other talks with the college. So the first talk I actually really did here was a talk about being a single parent and going to school. So being a single parent and being a college student, I had to budget everything. So I would save for my kids' birthdays. I would save for graduations. This year, my daughter's graduating high school. I have a savings for that. So when I need to buy things, it's not a big wow. And I start saving ahead of time. So if you know now that you have something like you're graduating and you want to do something for yourself for graduation, or you want to go on a graduation trip, you could start saving now, even if you're not going to graduate for another year. That way, when that time comes, you will have the money there. You might have to still come up with a little bit of money, but the bulk of the funds that you need are there. And it allows you a little bit more freedom, even if you're living on a really tight budget. And I know a lot of people are living on tight budgets, especially because of COVID. And if you're a student, of course, money's usually tight. So as I said, the optimal goal is 6 months of living expenses in your savings account. And this is one of my golden rules, which is borrow from yourself. So, when you borrow money, even if you're using a credit card or if you're borrowing, you have to get a loan from someone, they're going to charge you interest, right? So you can borrow $100 and end up paying back $120 or $150 or $200 because of interest and fees for borrowing that money. I don't ever have to take loans because I always saved. And so if I ever come into a situation where I'm short on funds, I go and I pull the money from my savings account. And then I always make sure I pay myself back, and I pay myself back with interest. Because who is the best person to receive that extra money, right? If you're borrowing 100 and paying back 125, that extra 25 is better to go back to you than to Discover or MasterCard or Visa. So if you end up having to borrow money, pay yourself back and pay yourself back with interest. It's in your best interest. So next we're going to go into the M. We're going to go over this quickly, and then we're going to circle back and go over it more in detail later. The M is money management, right? And that's my short way of saying budgeting. So what I want you to do is ask yourself a couple of questions. First, do you know what your monthly, weekly, or annual cash flow is? Do you know what a cash flow is? Do you keep records of how your money is going in and out, your spending, your savings, and how you're processing your funds? So if you don't know what your weekly, monthly, annual cash flow is, you might need to start to budget. Next question is, do you keep track of your spending? So I know that on a good weekend, especially prior to COVID, when I had my ATM card, I could spend a lot of money and not even realize it. Or if I have cash, I could spend a lot of money. I tend to spend less money when I shop like on Amazon, because I look at the cart and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really need that. But in real life, without a budget, everyone usually spends more money than they plan on. And that comes to my third question, which is, do you plan how you're going to spend your money, how you're going to save, and how you're going to invest? So we're going to go over that more in this M section of money management. First of all, I want to start off by saying, in order to properly budget or manage your money, you need to review your transactions. When I say review your transactions, I mean look at all your statements, not just your bills, but your statements. Because especially in this day and age, you can sign up for quite a few things that are on auto pay, or you put things on your cards and you don't even realize those transactions are coming out, and you're not going to have a bill for it, right? They don't bill you when you sign up for a subscription for like Hulu or Netflix, or even if you have, like, I know there's games that you can, you have games through Google Pay and Google Play, and they're coming out automatically. So that's still money coming out. And so you need to actually review your transactions. And then when you find something that in your transaction list that you either cannot identify, or you look at it and you're like, why do I still have this transaction here? You need to dispute or delete them when necessary. When you want to dispute a transaction, you can usually go into whatever vendor or merchant you had the transaction through, and they usually have some type of dispute button, or just use the contact button and contact a customer service rep. Let them know that you're trying to dispute a transaction. And then I say delete when necessary, because I've looked at my statements, forgot that I signed up for, I have a video game subscription from like 15 years ago that still shows up. And even though it's only $6 a month, I thought about it. I'm like, I've had this for over 10 years, $6 a month. That's like $70 a year. And that's 10 years. So I paid $700 for video games that I don't even play. Okay. So with that being said, in the first money management session, we went over the Smart Budget worksheet. I set up a tiny URL for it. So you can go to tinyurl.com Smart Budget Sheet, and you can access this worksheet. I'm going to open it for you here. On the first page, there are instructions. So what you want to do is you want to go to the second tab, and you can download this worksheet. And it's pretty much a budget worksheet that I've made that you can access. I used it and I based it off of some of the budgets that we use in the accounting world. And I've modified it for not businesses, but for personal expenses. In the top part, you would enter in your checking balance, your saving balance, and then your bank balances for the month. You would then enter in your estimated amounts for your housing costs, your utilities, food, transportation, any health related expenses, finance, personal, and then of course I added a section for school expenses, since this is a workshop for students. These would all total up here for the month. And then you would also have a section for one-time expenses. So the top section are for reoccurring expenses. The bottom are for what if expenses and one-time expenses. Okay. And then you would, at the bottom, have a total money out. Now, originally I was going to go over this with you, but I actually have something else I'm going to do with you today. Okay. But if you wanted to look at this, it is available. You can go in here and download it. The link, I can put it into the chat. What I actually have decided to do is, in session 1, I mentioned Mint. And when I was thinking of what I was going to speak to all of you about today, I was thinking about the whole process, everything that we went over. And I really wanted to find something that captured all the different aspects of the SMART method of managing your money. And I went into Mint. I used to use Mint a while ago. As it was mentioned, I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so I don't really do as much of the personal budgeting software as I do the business budgeting software. But Mint is another Intuit product, just like QuickBooks, which is what I usually use. And I went into Mint recently, and they actually have a lot of new features that they've added. So today we're going to go over Mint. I'm going to go over this quickly. We're going to go over all the other part of SMART, and then we're going to come back and do a real deep dive into Mint. So the first thing that I want you to do when you go into Mint, though, is gather your passwords, gather your statements, and then review your assets and your liabilities. Assets, just so you know, here's your little education one-on-one. Assets are things that you own that have value. Assets could be vehicles, stocks, bank accounts, retirement plans, life insurance, property, or even money that others owe to you. So if you owe me $500, that's actually an asset to me because that means that I have $500 coming in. It was a kind of weird concept. That was probably one of the most difficult concepts for me to wrap my brain around when I took my first accounting class, that someone owing me money was an asset to me, but it is. Liabilities are people and places that you owe money to. So these would be your bills, loans, and other expenses that you have that are coming out. So before you go in to work on your budget, you need to have a list of your assets and your liabilities because they all will help you determine your cash flow and how you're going to spend your money. We're going to go into A. We're going to go through the next couple acronyms kind of quickly so we can go back to M and really look at MINT. So A was for aid. And once again, I want to remind everyone that you can always look for different resources for aid through your school. Your school has tons of resources. We have the Financial Aid Office, Pell Grant, Cal Grant, work, federal loans, and work study. And here's the link for the Financial Aid Office for the College of Marin. And for any colleges, you can usually look up financial aid and get the link to their website. There's tons of resources on that website. Then you have your scholarships, which you can also receive. There's a huge list of scholarships on the College of Marin website. I looked at it over the weekend when I was preparing for this. And as I said, my daughter's getting ready to go to college this year. And I was like, oh, there's tons of scholarships here. I'm going to send her these links. So there's a lot of really good stuff in there. And you would be surprised how many people don't apply for scholarships, which really increases your chances of receiving a scholarship. And then finally, we have other types of aid that can be available through the programs, especially the programs that are sponsoring this seminar today. Such as the EOPS office, CARE, CalWORKS, Umoja, Woman to Woman, and ASCOM. So there are representatives from most of these offices on this call today, and they are wonderful resources, and they can always guide you into different ways that you can possibly find aid in financial aid and other resources available to you. Which gets us into R, which are resources. Going to go through this one really quickly. Besides on-campus resources, there's always off-campus resources. And if you can combine the two, you can actually do a lot. I became really, really good at doing this when I was going to school. So most people and most community organizations enjoy helping people and helping students. Don't ever be scared to ask. I know I didn't like asking for help. And then once I realized how much help was available, I kind of walked in with my head up high about asking help. And it was just like, hey, I'm trying to do something great with myself. I'm trying to do something great for my family, for my kids. I'm trying to better myself. What do you have out there that can help me make this happen? And right now during COVID-19, there are even extra resources available. So some of the places you can go to look are the college. You can go to the city and county. You can, there's a lot of programs to help you with utilities, right? Everybody needs water, gas, garbage. So there's a lot of programs for that. Food, housing. There's also a lot of resources to help you with activities. And right now, I mean, we've been in COVID for over a year. I know myself, I'm so tired of being in the house. And COVID's like being on COVID lockdown has finally gotten to me over the last couple months. So just keeping yourself busy, keeping yourself active is good for you mentally. It's good for you spiritually. It'll, help you just reconnect with people. And there's a lot of resources out there. So even if you can't do things face to face, a lot of people are doing things via Zoom and other type of live broadcasts. So you could still go out to those same rec centers, they have things that they're doing, you know, via video. And even though it might sound corny in the beginning, it's really, really cool. And it's something better than just sitting around the house. I signed my son up for karate. It was like karate via Zoom. I was like, okay, how is this going to work? It's actually really awesome. It's great because sometimes when I'm really busy, he can still go on Zoom. I can start it up. He can Zoom. He's busy. He's interacting. He's with his peers. He's with people, you know, interacting with him in a way that I don't interact with him. And he comes out in a better mood. I'm in a better mood because I know he's having fun. So I would encourage everyone to look into different resources that are out there, even during COVID, because the world has changed and it's kind of adjusted for COVID. So stay active in looking for resources. And then there's other resources available. I'm going to click on these really quickly so you can see there's links behind here. And I'm going to put up the link to the slide. So if you want to look into the links more, they're available for you. But for college, there's, you know, some student services for the county and city. These are for the city of and the county of Marin. And literally what you do is you just Google it. Like you Google the city that you're in or the county that you're in or the state that you're in, and you Google what the resource is, and you'll get tons of resources coming up. Okay, so like for example, the city of Marin, they have something for water. The California Department of Education has programs to help with cell phone bills. Xfinity has programs, you know, that they will help you with your internet or your cable. And I know that during school, a lot of schools are giving out like the Wi-Fi hotspots. I recently moved to a place where Wi-Fi for me now is going to cost me a couple $100s a month. I was like, how am I going to, that's a big bill. And then my kid's school was like, hey, we can give you a hotspot for free. I was like, that sounds great, right? So never be scared to say what's going on and let people know what's going on with you. But also like Xfinity, they are giving, they have discounted rate plans for students. They have discounted plans for people that are low income. When I was a student and my kids qualified for free and reduced lunch, I was able to get my cable and my internet together combined for $12 a month. So I have a list of these resources, and it's actually on the third page of the Smart Budget worksheet. There's a list of resources with links there for you. PG&E also has programs. And then 211 is actually a really, really awesome resource. They have tons of programs on the 211 webpage. So they have web pages by county. So search 211 and the county you're in, and they have an abundance of resources and offices and departments that you wouldn't even think exist for you. You can also call 311 and they have like operator type people who have resources for you. You can go to the county websites and the HUD, the Housing and Urban Development websites. They have lots of resources. Here's other places you can go to: city websites, community centers, cultural centers, religious establishments, and nonprofits. And then you can look for resources for students, right? So like I found this one, and it was like 100 stores that give students discounts. And when I was a student, I had discounted Adobe, discounted Microsoft Office, discounted Amazon Prime, discounted. I got my computers on discount. I use student discounts for everything I could. I tried to make my money go as far as possible. So always look for discounts for students. Okay. And then the last thing that we're going to go to is transactions. And with transactions, I was talking to you guys more about your credit score, and what a credit score is. So how you calculate your credit score, it's actually a mathematical formula that's meant to predict your credit worthiness. And the reason I say that is because I don't know if people have actually tracked their credit score, but you could look on one website and your credit score is one number. and you can go someplace else and your credit score is a completely different number. So first of all, there are like 20 different calculations of how to calculate your credit score. And there's 3 different agencies that all use the different calculations. So there's like what, over 60 different varieties of your credit score that would be available. And with that being said, you kind of want to know what you're trying to do when you're using your credit, so you can know what the chances are of how they're going to weigh different things. And sometimes certain industries use certain credit reporting agencies more than others. When I say how they're going to weigh it, I mean, this is an example of generally how they weigh your credit score. 35% of your credit score is your payment history. 30% is your capacity, the amount owed, how much of your credit you're using, right? So it's how much of your credit you're using, and overall, and then how much you're using on each individual line of credit. Next is your length of credit, and that's how long you've had your accounts. So sometimes people are like, I'm going to get credit cards because I'm building up my credit. That's great. You will build up your credit, but know that having a credit card, if you're trying to build up your credit now and you've had a card for 5 years, and say you only have 1 credit card, and then you go and get 2 new credit cards right now, that might actually lower your score, because your average length of credit now is going to go from being 5 years down to like 2 years. And then you're also going to have more inquiries, which is this fourth bullet here, new credit. So you're going to have more inquiries because they're going to have to run your credit to give you a card, and then it's going to reduce the length of credit. So for a while, it will actually lower your score. And then the last one is the type of credit used. So you need to have a wide variety of credit. So if you, for example, have credit cards, student loans, a car payment, and you decide you want to pay off your car, that might actually lower your credit score, because now you only have student loans and you have credit card payments. So it's no longer showing that variety of you being able to manage various types of credit. And if you are trying to get a perfect credit score, you need to kind of have all types of credit. So you would need to have the student loans, not the student loans, but you would need to have the installment loans, the revolving credit, including either car payments or mortgages. And just giving you a little bit of personal in here. When you talk about your capacity and the amount owed, on my personal, I'll throw some personal out here. We're going to get real personal because we're going to go into Mint, and I connected it to all my accounts. So you guys are going to see a lot of me today. But I just recently moved. I recently bought a house. So those inquiries on my credit dinged my credit a lot when I was looking for my loan. It lowered my credit score. And then when I moved, I went shopping for furniture and put a bunch of stuff on my credit card. And in the hustle and bustle, I didn't pay the balance off like I usually do. So I have a credit card that's sitting with a high balance. 1 credit card. All my other cards are pretty much paid off. 1 credit card, but it's almost maxed out. And because I used it when I went to go buy some furniture and I didn't have my ATM card, right? Just maxing out that card last month dropped my credit score over 60 points. So even though my credit I'm using like less than 30% of my total line of credit, maxing out 1 card dropped my score 60 points. And I'll show you guys. We're going to go and look at it in a little while. So your credit score range is from 300 to 850. You want to, usually if you're above like 670, you're in pretty good shape as far as if you want to go and buy something. if you're in the 600s, you're in that fair category between 620, 679. You can probably get things, but you're going to have a high interest rate. If you're below 600, you're probably going to need a cosigner, or they're going to really gouge you with your interest rates or your down payments. If you're in 700 or above, you can pretty much do anything you want to do. So when you're trying to gauge where you want to be, I would say 680 and above will give you a lot of liberty. You don't need to be in 700, but 680 and above will give you a lot of liberty. If you are below 600, you're going to have a hard time. And what I do want to let you know is right now during COVID, there are free credit monitoring services available. So there are 3 main credit monitoring services. And during COVID, they're trying to help people out by letting them run their credit report free on a weekly basis. So you could always run your credit on Credit Karma. They don't use the FICO. They use a different standard. So it's not going to be your exact FICO score. And they only give you 2 of the 3 reporting agencies. They give you your Equifax and your TransUnion. I like Credit Karma. I use it. It gives me alerts. It sends me little messages all the time whenever something happens. I usually use this to monitor my credit on a regular basis. Annualcreditreport.com is the website that's offering the weekly online credit reports. And so usually it's an annual report. Usually once a year, you can go on and get your Equifax, your Experian, and your TransUnion. But like I said, during COVID, you can go on weekly and you can pull a new report once a week, and you can find out what's on your credit, where your credit stands. You can see if anyone's reporting you late, if anyone's reporting you behind, anyone's using your credit, any identity theft. And a really good habit to get into is tracking your due dates for your credit cards, because like I said, my score dropped and I knew that it was due. I knew that I had made those charges. In my mind, I had just got my dates mixed up, right? So I was just like, okay, I have to pay this off by the 20th. And it was actually due like the 19th. So if I had paid more attention to my statement date, which was the 19th, and I had made my payment on the 19th or the 20th, my credit wouldn't have, I made my payment. I was just going to put extra. I was going to pay it down more. So because I didn't pay it down enough by my statement date, it showed that I was accessing almost 100% of my line of credit, and that really dinged my score. So even if you're using your credit report only to make sure that you know what days your credit is being reported so you can manage your payments a little bit better, it's a really good tool to use. I'm going to try to go into what I'm saying a little bit more as I'm showing you guys Mint. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the M and go to Mint. And so it's mint.com, and I should have the tab open. So like I said, Mint is, it's an Intuit product. It's free. So it's a free budgeting tool that you can use. In order to get into Mint, you need to sign in. So what you would need to do is create an Intuit login. If you use like TurboTax or anything like that to prepare your taxes, then you already have an Intuit login. You would use that same login for TurboTax as you would use here. If you've never used like TurboTax or QuickBooks, you would need to create a login. All right. So I'm going to log in. And we are going to look at Mint. I'm going to get one moment to go over the chat real quick. Oh, it's not loading right. Give me a moment. Any questions so far? So what I did, this is Mint. And I linked up some of my accounts in here so you guys can see some of my business. Not all my accounts, but let's go look around, okay? First of all, on this homepage, what you're going to see is a list of your different accounts. So as I mentioned, try to have multiple accounts. And what I actually do is I not only have multiple accounts, I have multiple banks that I bank with. So, I mean, I'm showing you guys a little bit of me, but I'm showing you that I also practice what I preach and that it kind of works. So I bank at Golden One Credit Union. I have PayPal. I bank at US Bank. I bank at Wells Fargo. I have different banks that I do different things with. My school stuff and my kids' school stuff all comes out of one bank versus my household bills all come out of someplace else. Okay. And I have a checking and savings at every single bank. If you see, I have a checking and savings at all my banks. Even here, I only have $1 in the savings because I don't really do a lot here. But I open a savings account because you never know when you're going to, you never know when life's going to change. I might have extra money later on and be able to save. Okay. So in here, you'll see the accounts. So you see my cash accounts. Then you'll see credit cards where I linked up a couple of my credit cards. Now, this is the one that got me in trouble. Remember, I told you guys that I bought a bunch of furniture and didn't pay the bill. So you see my other ones have like $0 on here. This one killed my score. It dropped my score 60 points. And even if I pay it off right now, it won't change until next month because it will change again on the statement date. So once a month, your credit card when you get your statement, when they prepare that final statement for you on a monthly basis, they send that report over to the credit reporting agencies. So even if I were to pay that credit card off right now, it's not going to be reported until like the 19th of next month. So I'll probably pay it off like the 15th of next month, let my cash sit in my bank account for a little while, pay the credit card off, and then hopefully my credit score will jump back up, but it will not go back up the 60 points that it was deemed. It might go up 40 points. It's going to take me a couple of months before I get back to where I was, which isn't great, but it's better than, it's the easiest to correct of all of the different things that could lower your credit score. Loans, I have a car loan. Here's my car loan. Investments, I linked up one of my retirement accounts. There's not much in there. It's from when I was younger. And then property accounts, right? So one of the nice things about this is that you can put multiple accounts in here. Give me one moment, everyone. I am going to try to refresh this and see why it is cycling so much. I'm going to reboot. Does anyone have a question? I'm just going to reboot my my internet because it's not opening all the tabs for you, and I want you guys to be able to see everything.
I have a question.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So you mentioned about like the savings account. So what exactly is the savings account, and just to get into detail, and how to open one? Do you just walk into the bank saying, "Oh, I just want a savings account"? That's basically much it.
Yeah. So you want to walk into the bank. You want to have some type of identification. So either a driver's license or an ID. If you don't have a driver's license or an ID, you can bring in your student ID, or you can bring in your birth certificate. And then if you have your social security card, bring in your social security card. And so you just need some type of identification, and then you need some money. So when you open the account, you're going to have to make an initial deposit. It could be maybe like $20. A lot of banks will let you open up with $20. And like I said, like for my kids, and even I remember doing it with my mom when I was young. We just took my piggy bank in, and they count your cash because they have cash counting machines, and so, or coin counting machines. So you could literally like bring your jar of loose change in and be like, I want to open a savings account, and they will help you open a savings account. Make sure that you let them know that you're a student, because most of the student accounts, they have lower thresholds. So they'll either they might let you open an account with only $5, and then they won't also charge you fees, because a lot of accounts charge fees. Like my savings, if I don't have at least $2,000 in there, they charge me $15 a month. And so, but my kids, they have student accounts, and they have way less money than that, and they don't charge them anything. So make sure that you let them know that you're a student. And then you just walk into the bank. Well, right now though, because of COVID, you can't walk into most banks. So you would go online and you would make an appointment. Here. Give me a moment. I'm going to show you. I'm trying to get this Mint going, but let me show you this. I do most of my banking at Wells Fargo.
Yeah, me too.
And what you want to do is when you go into the Wells Fargo, right, you're going to want to actually, I put Wells Fargo, make an appointment. And so for me, Google is my best friend. I put in make an appointment, and it's right here, schedule an appointment. If you walk in, they're not going to let you just walk in because of COVID. So you just go through the prompts, and they're going to ask you, what do you want to do? I want to open a personal account, and I want to open a new account. And then I want to open a checking or savings account. You would put in your zip code. This is where I live. They're going to give me a list of the banks. I will just choose a bank. And they're going to so say for tomorrow, they have a 9 o'clock. I could click it, set it, and then put in my information. So if I said no, they would just ask me for my name, my phone number. So that way, when you go to the door, you're going to say I have an appointment, and they're just going to sit you with the rep. Otherwise, you could go in and they'll be like, oh, somebody can see you. Once I went in, they were like, somebody can see you in 4 hours. I was like, I'm not sitting in my car for 4 hours waiting for this. So I went on my phone and I booked an appointment and came back. I would advise you guys all to book appointments, because some places won't even let you go inside without an appointment.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to take a look around Mint. I am not getting my main menu up here. So give me a moment. I want to go over some of the things you have. See? In Mint, you can do a budget. And that's what I want. Okay, here it is. This is what I was looking for. So when I open up my Mint, it's going to go over a few things. First of all, it's saying you rock. You're only using 29% of your credit. And this is my overall credit. So from all the credit that I have, I'm only using 29% of it. Now, your goal should always be to use 30%, to only use up to 30% of your credit. So say you had 10 credit cards, each credit card had a $1,000 limit. You would want to use no more than $3,000 of credit total, right? So this is right here, they're saying 29% of my total credit, right? So you would want to use 3,000 of the 10,000 that you had with all your cards combined. But at the same time, you want to use no more than 30% on any specific card, right? So you don't want to have 3 cards that are maxed out and then 7 that have nothing on them, because that's going to drop your score. Like I said, that killed my score. Okay. But your goal there is 30%. That's like the magic number. If you are at like 35% and you're trying to increase your score, if you were to go in and pay a little bit extra on one of those cards and get it down between below 30, you'll see a huge jump in your credit score. Okay. And in Mint, you can track your credit score. So on this top right here, you can track your credit score. You see how I told you it dropped? It's 670. If I were to show you my other one, my score was like in the 740s last week. So be careful what you do. I will get it back up. It's going to jump back up later on, but it went down. And if you see, it's going to tell you why. Good on my one-time payments. Yes, I made all my payments on time, 99% of the time. Like, I missed one payment when I moved and my bill went to my old address. And then my credit usage, good. I'm only using 27% of my credit, right? Average age of credit, good. Altogether, my credit is about 6.8 years. And that's because I didn't really have credit cards when I was younger. And then I started getting credit cards like within the last 5 years more, because I've been like, oh, I want to build up my credit. But that actually brought down my credit age because I had some older cards and they take an average. My total accounts, excellent. I have 25 accounts. I have a wide variety of accounts. So my oldest account only has a balance of like, it's a credit card and it has like a $500 limit, but it's a credit card that I got when I was younger and I've had that card for like 15 years. If I were to close that card or let that card close, it's gonna reduce this average age of my credit a lot, and it's gonna reduce the total number of credits. So every so often, I will go and put something, I don't know, I'll get gas with it and then I'll pay it right off just to make sure they don't close my card, so that it keeps my average age of my credit up and it keeps my total number of accounts up. And during COVID, a lot of agencies have been closing accounts. So that's why they're offering the free credit scores so that you can monitor it. And if they close your account or if you see they reduce the limits on any of your cards, you can call the credit card companies and ask why. Now my orange, which is not so good, is my credit inquiries. Like I said, I just bought a house. So if you look at my inquiries, it's all these credit checks when I was looking for my house. It's going to take 2 years for that to go off. So I won't be able to have super good credit until those drop off. But I got my house, so it's okay. And then derogatory marks, this is like collections or late payments or like repos, and I have none, so that's excellent. But let me go over this a little bit more with you. So we came back, we started with the credit, and you could see you can do credit score. And if I hadn't put my information in already, you actually just put in your information, your name, your address, your social security number, and your date of birth, and you can sync your credit score to your Mint. So when you come in here, you can not only do your transactions, you can do an overview of like almost every single thing we talked about today. So you can do your credit in here. You can sync your accounts. All right. So all of these accounts, that goes under transactions. When I go to my transactions, I synced my accounts. Now, when I did my sync to my bank, it synced up all of my accounts. And when I did all of my accounts, it did my business accounts as well. So I was able to go into the settings and say, take out my business accounts. And I want to show you a couple things. Now, remember, on top of this, I started off, in the accounting world. So transactions are my life. This is really good because it allows you to review your bank statements. If I wanted to, review my statements by date, I could sort it by date. If you want to sort it by description, you can sort it by description. If you want to sort it by category, you can sort it by category. If you want to sort it by amount, you can sort it by amount. So these are all sortable fields. If you were to sync this, I like to do things by description. And this is just me and my accounting, okay? So the reason I like to do it is because if I find something, these are the descriptions that come through on your statements. And if I find something's miscategorized, you can recategorize it. The reason you want to recategorize it is because these are the categories for your budget. And let me see if I can find something. Like, say all of these, I don't know, AAAs. Say all of these AAAs were actually, I wanted to not put them under auto insurance, but I wanted to put it under my business insurance. I can click on all of them, highlight them all, and then say edit multiple. And I could go in here and say, oh, you know what? All of that is business related. And I can change the category to something else. I can say business services, right? So, or I can put it into something else. I can say it's like, I'll say it's business services and say I'm done. So I've now tagged it all so I can run a report like, hey, show me everything that's in my personal that is actually business that I need to move. And then I can also put in everything that is in categories when I look at my budget. So you can, I would suggest sorting things not by date, but by category, and then, or by description, and then categorizing everything. Okay. Another cool thing that you guys can do in here is like this. Remember I told you guys I have these video games that I've had for like 15 years? It's Big Fish Games. It's been here forever. So, and I really do need to delete this because I don't use it anymore. I can search for Big Fish Games and pull up all the Big Fish games in here. I can search for the word fish because I saw some more. You see there's some in here that say instant transfer. So they don't come up when I say big fish, but I look for the word fish and I have all of them. I'm gonna select all of these. I'm gonna edit them. And I actually created a tag that said review. So if you go in here to edit tags, I created a tag. I added a tag that said review, or I could put like to be deleted, right? I'm gonna go through here. I'm gonna tag everything to be deleted and say I'm done. And the reason I'm doing that is so that once I'm done going through all of my transactions, I can go back, go into the to be deleted, and it'll remind me that I need to get a hold of Big Fish, find my username and password, and cancel this subscription that I've had for like over 10 years. So this is one of the things that you guys can do is it brings in all your transactions. Once you get your transactions and you go through them and you make sure that everything is recorded properly into the proper account, then you can go and look at your budget. But first you want to go through your transactions and make sure everything's right, right? So you want to make sure that Hulu really goes to movies and DVDs, that Google is really advertising. And so you want to go through all your transactions. And then after you go through all your transactions, you can go into goals. Your goals are going to be any goals that you have, and these goals will go into your budget. So if you have any big goals, like mine is pay off that credit card. So I put that goal in here. Then these would be like saving goals or goals to pay things down. And when you open goals, they're going to give you all these different options. Like, do I want to, crush my credit card debt? Do I want to conquer my loans? Do I want to save for a rainy day? Do I want to prepare for retirement? Do I want to buy a car, take a trip? So say we want to take a trip and we want to go to, I don't know, Mexico for graduation, right? We're going to go and we're going to say that it's going to be family. We're going to go for 10 days, 2 people. They're going to estimate how much it's going to cost. And they're going to say, hey, for that trip, you would need a goal of saving $5,000 $800. Then they're gonna say, do you want to open a new goal, an account for this? No, we're not gonna do anything with our accounts. We're just gonna set the goal. And then where do you plan on going? Okay, I'm planning on going in 2023 when I finish school. They're gonna tell you how much you should be saving a month, and you could save your goal, right? So you can set goals, and this is the goals for your budget. So if you have any goals of anything that you wanna do, you can set them in here. When you go into your budget, they are going to tell you, they're going to look at all of your transactions and your goals, and they're going to help you come up with a budget. Okay. So in here, what you do is, for example, I'm in the red on my movies and DVDs. So my budget is $100 a month, and I spent $121. Can you see this? I hope you guys can see this. My budget's 100, I spent 121. So if I want to see how I did it, I click here and it pulls up everything that was in that category. Right? And if I'm like, well, you know what? It's COVID, it's lockdown, we're bored. I want to increase that budget because my gas is going down. I'm going to increase that to 200 and bring my fuel down, because you can see I've spent $0 in fuel. I think I've put gas in my car like twice this year. So I can bring down my gas budget and increase my movies and DVD budget. So you can see if you're on budget, off budget, and this is for the month. So this is my monthly budget for the month of April. And this lets me know kind of where I've spent money. I set another, this is another budget that I set up, and I set up a budget for like my daughter going to college. That was another goal. I'm trying to like budget for that. I can look and see how much I've been spending in different categories, but in order to categorize it correctly, I need to go through my transactions, make sure the transactions are proper, and then you can put them in here in your budget. And then you can see if you're on or off. So my budgeted income is like 10,000 a month, and my budgeted spending is 6,900 a month. And my budgeted goal, for my goals, like for my trip to Mexico, and to put extra money on my credit cards to pay off my credit card in 3 months, that would only leave me like 835 a month to be able to have as excess money with the way that I'm spending. So this is nice because it lets you know how you're spending and where you stand, what you have left over, and it allows you to look at it and adjust it. If you want to create a new budget, you can create a new budget. So if you wanted to say, let's see, education, books and supplies. Say you wanted to say books and supplies, and you would say every few months, and let's say you're on semester. So let's do like every, not even 6 months. We're gonna do 3 because there's kind of like the fall semester, spring semester, and summer. So we're gonna do like every 4 months, I spend $500 on books. My next is going to be, say you're gonna say summer, and summer is gonna start in June, right? You're gonna save that. So I've added this budget into my budget. And so it's gonna help me determine how much I'm spending or how much I need to set aside. So if I wanted to do that, it's like I would need to put away $167 a month for that budget. Okay. So you can add things to your budget, and then as it comes through, if my transactions, like say if I were in here and I had Amazon Kindle, I could actually say like, hey, you know, all these Amazon Kindles, they were for that budget. I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna change the category to education, books and supplies. Say I'm done. when I go back to that budget now, oh, it's not the right time period, but it would show, see, it's right here in books and supplies. So now it's changed. So when you go into your transactions, you can move things around in your budget. You can trend your stuff, and you can also track your investments. When you go to investments, like you can see one, I have Vanguard. I have my Vanguard in here, sorry. And you can see it here. Like you can see my investment accounts. One of the nice things you can do is you can, when you add accounts, if you add your bank statement first, it's going to read your bank statement and it's going to say like, oh, it looks like you have PayPal, or it's going to look like, oh, you have Venmo transactions coming in. Do you want to sync your Venmo? And then they're going to kind of give you suggestions in here based on your transactions. And this syncs a lot more than I've seen with other apps. So you could sync your Venmo, and I don't know if they have, I wonder if they have Cash App. They don't have Cash App, but they had Venmo. They had my retirement funds for like the professors. They have CalPERS. You could put your CalPERS in here. You could put, I could put in like my AAA. You can also sync your bills. So I did my sync of my credit cards. It not only read the transactions, but it also read the due date. So it says like, hey, you have a bill coming up. So you can sync all of your accounts. And then if you have a bill that's something you just pay cash, you can put it in here, like add an offline bill. And I could say like rent. And it's the rent and it's due on the 1st. And it's $1,000 a month. And I do it monthly. Are there any security concerns when using Mint and linking them to accounts? Colleen, I would actually probably say slim to none. Like I said, Mint is the security that's put up by Intuit. And Intuit, if you guys don't know, they do TurboTax, they do QuickBooks, they do Mint. So if you are, with that being said, they spend so much money on their security features. I know a lot of people are very hesitant about putting their information, especially on the cloud. I was in the beginning, and then when I was working with some of these companies, I actually worked at Intuit for a while. They were like, we spend more money on our security than anything else. And all of our security measures are like 1,000,000 times higher than anything you would have on your personal computer. So they would be liable if anyone ever got any of your personal information. That's like one of the #1 things they spend all their money on. So if I wouldn't be very cautious about it, QuickBooks is like the #1 software used by small businesses. And so all the small businesses sync their information there, right? TurboTax, like millions of people use TurboTax, and you put in your personal information there. Mint is another Intuit program in that same suite. They all have that same security protocol. And I would say that it's probably one of the safest places you could put your information, because that's all they do. Now, this is what I thought was really cool, is like I could put my investment accounts here, which I have never seen a software where I can put my investment accounts. And then like I synced my loans. So when I synced my bank, I have a loan through my bank and it showed up in my loans, right? And then it shows my payments. So, which is actually cool because I never really remember how much it is. This is my balance on my loan, and these are my payments that come out. So when I synced my bank, it went through, and then I actually had the option to say what I didn't want. Is there anything that anyone wants to see in here? Anyone have any questions on how you would do things? I would really try to encourage people to try this software out. It's changed a lot since I first used it. When I first used it, it was very clunky. What I said is it's really nice because think of it as a database where you hold all of your financial information, right? So in here we have your credit score. We have your bank accounts, we have your credit cards, we have your different apps that you're using, like you know, Venmo and Cash App and things of that sort that you can sync in. You have your investment accounts. And you can also put in any other personal things you can budget. And they will also suggest other things that you can do with your money, looking at you as a picture as a whole. Okay. I'm going over some of the questions. Do you have a limit of how much you should have in your checking account? I try to keep 2 months of my spending in my checking account. And that's because I myself do most of my bill pay on auto pay. And I never want to bounce anything, right? So if I know that my usual spend, or I try to at least keep that much in there. So if I know on an annual basis, like this right here said that I spend $6,000 a month, which isn't really true. This is mainly because I've been moving, but $6,000 a month. So with that number, I would say, okay, this budget said, okay, my spending $7,000 a month. I need to keep $8,000 or $9,000 in my account. And I need to keep it so that I know that all of my bills can clear without going over. Anything extra I keep in my savings, because my savings will accrue interest. Even if it's a little interest, my checking won't. Your checking never accrues interest on your money. So that's what I would do. I would keep the amount in your checking, if possible, that you know that you spend on either a monthly basis or like every 2 weeks, but try to keep enough in there so that you don't have to scramble and pay the bank over the limit fees, because those can add up. You know, I've seen people where they're paying $2,000, $3,000 a month and over the limit fees because they didn't have enough money in their bank. And I would rather keep my money, not pay over limit fees, and put a little bit extra in my checking and then put everything else in my savings. I also review my accounts about once a week. You can set up alerts. So I have alerts on my account. So like with my Wells Fargo, they said like, do you want an alert where if your bank account gets below this number, we send you a text message or an email? And I said, yes, send me a text and an email. So I set a criteria. So when my account goes to a certain amount, the bank will actually send me a message letting me know. And then at that point, what I do is I transfer the money from my savings over to my checkings. So just to make sure I always have a little bit of a cushion in there. I wouldn't keep all of your money in your checking. And then another thing that I do is, say if I'm telling myself I need to keep $8,000 in my checking account, if I open my checking account and it says that I have 8,000 something in there, I always like deduct a small amount. So when I started off, I would deduct like $100, right? Because my cash flow wasn't as high, but maybe I was making like 2,000 a month. I would always say like, okay, if it said I had 500 in the bank, I would be like, okay, I have 4, because I always wanted to give myself a cushion. So when you tell yourself how much money do you have in the bank, if you open your bank account and it literally says you have $668 in the bank, don't tell yourself you have $668. Tell yourself you have $568. Because if you tell yourself 668, you might push it to the limit and go over. How often do I do a comprehensive review of my accounts and transactions? I would say people should do this at least on a monthly basis. So I mean, before I was using an app, I used to use scratches of paper when I was at work. And when it was like downtime, I would sit and I would write out all my bills in one section and all the money I have coming in and the dates of my paychecks on a different section. And I would try to make sure that I would always have enough money to pay my bills. And I would do that on a monthly basis. You know, like some months have 3 pay periods, some months have 2. So I would always do it on a monthly basis. Plus most of your bills come out monthly. And like your statements will change monthly. So at least once a month, I would say you want to do it. You would want to reconcile or balance your books. And with that, you're looking at, if you're writing checks, you want to see if there's something that hasn't cleared. So if you write a check to someone, if this was my bank account, and I'm just going to look at here, say leftover 668. Say this was my balance in my bank account right now. And I'm like, okay, cool, I have $668. But I wrote a check to someone for $500. I need to make sure that I'm always aware of that. And that's where you would go into something like this and you would enter in the bill. You would enter in the bill and the due date so that you can make sure that you have it accounted for, that that money is spent even though it hasn't come out of your bank account. Okay. Let me see. Anna, your question about having maxed out one card and having a bunch of others that have 0 on them. Yep, it will drop your score about 100 points. Like I said, it dropped mine about 60. And do I recommend paying it all off in a month? If you can, that's great. Do you need to pay it off today? No, not unless your statement closing date is tomorrow or the day after. If you can't pay it all off, at least pay it down to like 50% or if possible, 30% of the balance. So, you know, you always want to keep cash. I never will empty out my bank account to pay off a credit card because you never know what's going to happen. But if you can always remember, like you have that 30% threshold, there's also another big threshold at 50%. If you can hit that 50%, maybe the next month hit the 30, unless you just have a lot of extra money sitting around, then pay it all off. But you, like I said, you still don't need to pay it off until right before your statement closing date. So if your statement's not closing until the 20th of next month, pay it off on the 15th, just in case something happens. I don't know, you get a flat tire, you need to go buy a new tire on your car. Any other questions? Oh, you're welcome. I have one more little extra for you. If we have any more time. I had, one of my extras was I wanted to go over with you guys, and I'm gonna go all the way to my end of my slides. A couple of tips for taxes. Okay, so. And this is what I do. So for your tax tips, if you guys have not filed taxes yet, always remember that you need to have all your information. And with this being a COVID-19 year, you need to bring in your COVID-19 information. And there's some programs that were implemented because of COVID-19. So I want to make sure that you always have the opportunity to maximize or get the maximum tax refund or owe the least amount on your tax return and get the maximum benefits that are available for you. So here's a couple of tips for you. First is bring information of your economic impact payments to your tax appointment. Okay, so, and I see your question, Grace, I'll go over it. So if you received an economic impact payment, you know, the stimulus payments, bring that information with you when you prepare taxes this year and next year, because those payments, like the payment that you received like this time last year, and then the payment that went out in December, those were prepayments on the tax returns that are being filed right now. So if you did not receive enough, so say you didn't get the first one, you will get that money when you file your taxes, but you need to bring in your information because they're going to ask you, how much did you receive for the first one? How much did you receive for the second? And then we have the calculations of how much you should have received based on your income, because it is a sliding scale based on income. And if you were owed, if you're owed any money, you will receive that money when you receive your tax, when you file your taxes. Or if you owe money and you didn't receive enough economic impact payment, it'll reduce the amount of money that you owe on your tax bill. Okay. If you took advantage of the no early withdrawal penalty rule for the retirement plans, which was the rule that you can withdraw up to $100,000 without the early withdrawal penalties if you were under 55. So a lot of people took advantage of that. They withdrew a lot of money from like their 401ks or, you know, different retirement funds. Know that those withdrawals can be spaced out over 3 years. There is a specific form that they need to fill out when they file your taxes, but you don't have to be hit with that whole amount of the withdrawal at once. For example, say you withdrew $50,000, and that would be like counted as $50,000 extra income this year. They're not going to give you the early withdrawal penalty, but you still have to report the income. You could split that 50,000 up over the next 3 years and technically only report like 17,000 for this year, 17 for next year, and 17 for the year after that. Okay. So if someone's doing your taxes and you took out money, make sure that you let them know if you want to split it, or just know that it's possible to have it split up over 3 years. And then one of the final tips that I have is, if you are self-employed, there's a credit for sick leave and family leave for self-employed individuals. Someone needs to fill out the form 7202 for you. So if you're self-employed, or you have self-employed income, and you had to either like not work as much because of COVID, because you got sick, someone in your family got sick, or like me, I had kids, the schools were closed, so I'm not able to work full days anymore. There's a credit that I can receive for having to reduce my hours due to COVID. If you had a regular employer, they had credits that they received. So if for self-employed, they created a credit a couple months ago, but they did it this year. So it's a late credit that came out. With that saying, there were late credits that came out. So the tax filing deadline was extended to May 17th. And you have until May 17th to file and to pay any taxes that are due. If you want to do an extension on that, you can extend to October 15th, but you still, if you owe taxes, you still need to pay that estimated tax fee by May 17th, or else you're going to accrue interest and fees. Oh, and the last thing I didn't put it on here was, if you receive unemployment, they also passed a law in late February, early March, saying that the first 10,200 of unemployment is not taxable, so it doesn't have to be reported. So if you filed your taxes in the beginning of the year, like in February when it first opened up, or even up until late March, because a lot of these changes didn't take effect in our software until late March, you might want to revisit your tax return, because if you had unemployment and say you got like $8,000 in unemployment, that was added on as taxable income, and you might have had to owe taxes. Now they're waiving the first 10,200, so you technically had no taxable unemployment income, so therefore you wouldn't have to pay those extra taxes. You might be owed a refund, or your refund might be larger. As far as how much money do you have to make to file taxes, there's no, if you have income, you're supposed to file taxes. So most people don't file taxes until they're making at least $6,000 a year, but there are credits that you can receive if you file taxes. So for example, if your parents aren't claiming you and you didn't file taxes, you're not going to get an economic impact payment unless you went in and you filed on their website saying that you didn't file taxes. There's also the earned income tax credit, which is a tax credit which is refundable that you get for being low income. So they actually give you a refund for being low income. And that's like, if say you make like $10,000 or $15,000, you want to file taxes because you're actually going to get a tax refund. Even if you don't have a tax that you're owed, you might be owed a refund. And if you make less than 50,000 a year, you can file your taxes for free. So if you go to TurboTax, they might say, oh, it's like $50 to file. Look up free TurboTax. I always use a website called Free Tax USA. I like that one. I've used it like ever since I was in college when my income was low. You do your federal for free and your state's like less than $15. So if you make like less than, usually like a threshold's like in the mid 40s, every year it changes. But if you make like, say like less than 50,000 a year, you really don't have to pay to have your federal taxes done. The only thing you're gonna have to pay for is your state. Free Tax USA is like the least expensive I found. I think the state's like $15. And let's see, did I answer everyone's questions? Now, one more question for everyone. Of the people that are here, do we have any self-employed people? If we do, can you say me? No, they're not here? Okay, because I had some other tips and tricks that are out for self-employed. But if there's none here, we don't really need to go over them.
I mean, wait, I get, well, since I'm transferring to like a university and I'm committed to like having like, to just studying and not doing that much, going for a job or anything. And like, I do plan to like make like a little money, like, I don't know, like cleaning like, my classmates like apartments or something like that. That's what I was planning to do. So like, what would be the tips for like, you know?
If you wanted to like start your own little business while you were in school?
Yeah,
cleaning?
like a little cleaning business, you know?
Yeah. So what you would do is, I would say the best thing for you to do if you wanted to start a business, even just a small business, is you always want to keep it like legit. I always tell people like, keep it legit. So, because you never know where it's going to take you. And also you always want to have a footprint for your business, right? So it sounds a lot better if, say, you go to school and you have what, like 2.5 more years, and then you decide like, hey, you know what, this cleaning business is really good. I like it, and I want to expand my business once you're done with school. It sounds a lot better to be able to say, I've been in this business for 2.5 years than, oh, I just started last week, right? Especially if you're trying to get clients. So when I say keep it legit, you don't have to start an LLC or a corporation to start a business. A lot of times you can start a business with just simply, depending on your city, you're going to either need to register your business with the city or register your business with the county that you're in. And they usually have like a business, you get a business license. And some of the business licenses are only like $20, $30, but you'll be a licensed business and you'll be in the registry for your business for your city. So if someone ever wants to come back and say, oh, does Grace really have a business? Yes, here's my license. If you ever want to apply for programs, like say COVID goes away and then COVID comes back again in a year or two, you would at that time be able to say like, look, I've had my license from the city since 2021, and I want to apply for all these different programs, because the programs make you prove how long you've been in business. So one way that you prove how long you've been in business is to have your licenses. Another way to prove how long you've been in business is to file your business taxes when you file your taxes, which you can still do if you're like a sole proprietorship, which is what you would be if you just, started your housekeeping. You would file it a Schedule C on your personal tax return, and you could still do that like on Free Tax USA, so it won't cost you anything. And then if you wanted to give your business a cool name other than your name, you would file for a fictitious business name. So, and you would file that with the county. So if, like for me, I'm here in Sacramento County, I would go to the Sacramento County website and I would file for a fictitious business name through their website. It's like $8. And say I wanted to call it like Idara's Awesome Cleaning Team. I can pretty much hold that name for me, saying nobody else in Sacramento County can have this name. And then I can put that name on my business cards and anything else that I wanted to do, right, on my website. And it's registered. And then I could go to my city, which I live in, which was Elk Grove, and register my business with the city of Elk Grove. At that time, once I get that fictitious business name, they're going to give you a little receipt saying like, oh, your name's valid. Once you get that fictitious business name filing paper, you can actually take that into the bank and open a business bank account. And you would be able to have a business bank account besides your business bank account with that fictitious name filing. that would be the way to start, especially if you're young and you're in school and you don't want to spend a lot of money on fees. Everything else, like an LLC or corporation, it's going to cost you like $800 a month just in like I'm sorry, $800 a year in the annual fees, which you probably can't do as a student. I would go that route. Might cost you like $50 to get it all started up. But you never know what's going to happen in the future. And there's a lot of opportunities right now for business owners. I know a couple people that have cleaning businesses right now during COVID are doing really, really well because everything needs to be sanitary. So people that are cleaning right now are making a lot of money. Just a tip. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I hate to say this, but we are out of time. So, gosh, Eudora, I don't know where to start in saying thank you at all. Wait a minute.
Yeah, this was fabulous. So
Yeah.
much information.
It was.
You're such a wealth of information. We want to have you back again and again. Just every time you come, there's just more information that pours out of you. I don't know how you keep it all in your head, but thank you so much for coming. And you're one of our Umoja team, and we're so delighted to have had you come today. We'll be in
Thank
touch
you.
soon.
Yes. I can't wait till you come back. I learned so much. So much. I'm going to use the mint tonight.
It's awesome. It's awesome. They've really done a really good job with that application. I was even blown away, and if you need help with anything, I am here. I can leave my information here in the chat. And my website. Oops, I think it's only going to one person. So that's my website. This is my email. And here is the link to the budget worksheet.
Well, while Eudora is doing that, I just also want to do a shout out and a thank you to our captioner today.
I think that's really wonderful that that opportunity was there too. Thank you. On the worksheet, I didn't show you guys this. I tried to pull it up on the back page, but I put a bunch of links in here for you. This is the worksheet here. Here's the resource list, and there's a bunch of resources, and I added things in here for you guys. So here's a bunch of links to resources. You hover over them, you can just click on them and go there. But I put things on there like the pandemic EBT, which like if you qualify for free or reduced lunch, like if you had kids, they can get an EBT card. And one of the cool things about that is not only do they get the EBT card, which is like it used to be like a food stamp card, right? You can go in and you can use it to buy groceries, and you can go to some establishments and buy food. I've seen some even like fast food places now are taking it. On top of that, there's EBT discounts. So like I gave you guys the links to how to get a pandemic EBT card. And then you can also get it if you're low income, right? And then I gave you the link to the discounts that you can get if you have an EBT card, because I didn't even realize it, but there's like hundreds of places in California that you can get into for free if you have an EBT card.
Cool.
So like you show that your EBT card is your proof. So I gave you like the links of where to get one, and then you can go to all these different places like all these museums and all kinds of stuff. And it's either like free or like $2, $3 to get in. So I put a lot of really cool stuff in here for you. A lot of the things that I used when I was a student to get through. And, you know, use the resources that are out there and never be scared to ask questions, because people, there's like, what I always heard, there's no such thing as a dumb question. So
I
ask
just wanted to
questions if
say
you don't
one
know.
thing about the EBT card, that you can get half off your Prime membership from Amazon if you got an EBT card too. So just want to let everybody know about that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can get your Comcast for $12, $9.99 a month with your EBT card.
Let's see, I didn't know that. Okay, thanks.
So, yep, so there's a lot of things you can do.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for attending this workshop. I know if you're like me, you've learned quite a bit today. And thank you again, Eudora. I mean, every time you've come, you've shared a wealth of knowledge on how we can better improve our financial situation. So thank you so much. And as Bonnie says, you will be back again and again and again.
Thank you, thank you. You guys have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful day.
You
And
too.
yep, enjoy the rest of your semester. I'm very proud of you, all you students. You guys are hanging in there even through COVID.
Yay.